I'm Janice Edwards. Coming up on Signature Silicon Valley, KGO radio host, author, and performer Brian Copland joins us. He's been in the business for 25 years. We'll talk about his success stories. And then the 3rd Street Community Center offers STEM and so much more to students in need. That much and more coming up next on Signature Silicon Valley. Join us.
This segment is sponsored by Silicon Valley Community Foundation. Silicon Valley Community Foundation advances innovative philanthropic solutions to challenging problems. As the largest community foundation in the world, we engage donors and corporations from Silicon Valley, across the country, and around the globe to make our region and world better for all. Possibilities start here. Learn more at siliconvalleycf.org.
Welcome to Signature Silicon Valley. I'm Janice Edwards. A few weeks ago, we were talking with Manuel Santamaria, the Vice President of Strategic Initiatives and Grant Making for the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. At that time, there was a preview of SVCF. So I want to say, Manny, nice to see you again, and congratulations on the success of that. Another successful year. Now, the reason I wanted to continue our conversation is because some people don't know about all of the history of the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, and that you mentioned before, you are the largest community foundation in the United States. So how many billions does that translate to?
It is close to $7.3 billion.
That's incredible.
It's a lot of money, and I think the way that the Community Foundation has positioned itself to actually work with donors and work with nonprofits for maximum impact, that's, I think, what the promise of the Community Foundation has been for the last 10 years.
So what has led to this incredible success for the foundation, which means that so many people, organizations, and communities benefit from the work that you do?
Sure. So I think, why it has been, you've seen such an explosion in donations and in donors coming to the Community Foundation to help them fulfill their dreams is because I think Silicon Valley, we've seen has gone through a tech boom. It is in a tech boom right now. A lot of individual donors have actually seen how big the needs are in Silicon Valley, and so by working with the Community Foundation, they can partner with us to actually have maximum benefit impact.
It's incredible to see what you've been able to build, but let's dial back a little bit. How did the foundation begin, and what was the vision and the mission at that time?
Absolutely. The Community Foundation is the product of a merger between Peninsula Community Foundation in San Mateo County and Community Foundation Santa Clara County, and both foundations had been around for 40 and 50 years respectively, and in 2007 the merger happened, and at that time we began an 18-month process, what we called community conversations, in which we sat and we talked, we visited places all the way from Daly City all the way to Gilroy, and we had conversations around 9 specific buckets. Topics, fields of interest. So for example, community development, youth development, immigration, education, early childhood education, and we convened folks from nonprofits, advocates, legislators from city and county, and we talked to them about what were the possibilities of this new community foundation and where should we be investing our unrestricted grant-making dollars. We also had surveys, online surveys that provided a lot of feedback. And so that process made it so that a couple of folks, more than a couple of folks, have said that it was sort of a little bit of the canary in the coal mine, because one of the first things that we saw was the big need around safety net issues, which are food, housing. For example, Poncho Gonzalez at the Sacred Heart Community Service.
Yes, we've had him as a guest.
Yes, so Poncho was really one of the voices that said, we haven't seen so much need in 2008, 2009 when we started these conversations. Folks that were actually volunteers at Sacred Heart Community Service are now actually in line. And so by interviewing nonprofits, individuals, again, government officials, we really got a clear vision of what was going on in the Valley. And so we decided in 2008 to partner with donors towards the end, November and December. We made a call for every dollar that we were going to be putting out in 2008, donors actually matched it 2-to-1. So we were able to, this new community foundation, give out $3 million in 2008 in just food and housing issues and grants that went out into the community. That, I think, provided a spark for other donors and folks that were in the community, not necessarily knowing what this community foundation was going to be like, to say, hey, let's partner, let's continue that conversation, and let's create, a better, more seamless way of grant making through the community foundation, so that we have, better impact in San Mateo and Santa Clara County.
Yes, and that has worked very well. We're seeing housing now being incredibly difficult. I think one of the hardest times for many people since 2008 or 2009. How do you support organizations that are helping with housing?
Absolutely. So the Community Foundation invests in 4 very specific buckets. Education, which is focused around ensuring that rising 8th graders are enrolled and closing the achievement gap in mathematics. Economic security, which focuses on financial education and asset building, and we're really working around anti-payday lending. The third is around immigration. We're really focused on strengthening the legal services here in San Mateo and Santa Clara County, as well as adult English language acquisition. We're working very closely with community colleges and adult schools and nonprofits providing vocational ESL and ESL services. And then finally, we focus on what we call Building Strong Communities portfolio, which focuses on the advocacy for land use and transportation. So you mentioned housing. How do we work with that? We actually know that the 2 biggest crises that are upon the region's population is the number of hours that folks travel to and from work. Yes. So for example, the census actually ranks Silicon Valley as in the top 5 of mega commuters, which means that folks travel more than 50 miles and more than 90 minutes to actually get from home to work. So what does that mean? You can't live, and you can't live in the place that you actually work sometimes. And so we're looking at how do we partner with transportation authorities, for example, VTA and Samtrams here in the region, and these 2 counties, as well as the others in the 7 or 9 county Bay Area. And then housing specifically, we're focusing on building more affordable housing units while maintaining and ensuring that folks that are low income stay in their apartments. You mentioned it. It's been, the recessions for some still continues. It's been really hard hit. Some folks pay up to 50% of their income just in housing. So we're working with municipalities and to actually ensure that general plans include a certain percentage of affordable housing units whenever new development is proposed.
Yes, I know. It's good to know that those systems are in place to really help people, and certainly we want to make people aware of the possibilities with that. One of the things that happens when there are resources to make things better is that people's dreams come true, their visions. So I'd like to talk a little bit about your dream and vision. You grew up in El Salvador. You were thinking of becoming an engineer, but you've been with the Community Foundation for 17 years. So how does this match or complement that vision for building and that is within you,
Sure.
that is dedicated to that?
Yeah, I think personally, my story is similar to a lot of immigrants here in the region. My story began, or at least in this country, when I was 15 years old, and both my parents are educators, and part of the vision and what they instilled in me was really working with community. From an early age, I remember we did that together as a family. And so once I came here, because of what was happening in El Salvador in the early 80s, I started to volunteer with a couple organizations working with Central American Relief. And my trajectory began in really knowing what the region, at least where I was, which meant San Francisco, was offering and how it was dealing with immigrants. It's a very similar story as that we're seeing in Europe and in our region for the last many, many years. And so, through a process of, just education and connections and networking, I started working in Redwood City. There I saw the impact that the Community Foundation, which was Peninsula Community Foundation back then, had in social issues, in relevant issues in the community. And so took an interest in philanthropy, how that works, and was lucky enough to actually start working here at the Community Foundation and help begin to develop, what this new Community Foundation was going to do. I think it's a privilege to work here. It's also, something that I think of every single day because, how we work with individuals, how we work with nonprofits to better the community is something that, we don't take lightly, and it's difficult at times because, folks have different ideas, different points of interest, and our roles every day, at least in philanthropy, are to listen, to talk to people, and to garner and hone in on, what are those pressing issues that we can partner on so that we can make a better impact. And so it's a privilege, like I said, to come here and work and think through some of these, heavy, challenging issues with folks, from all walks of life.
Yes, well, you do that very well, and I thank you so much for allowing us in. It's good to talk with you about this, and you have initiatives throughout the year, so continued success
with
those that you're doing, and thank you for making our communities stronger and better, and for putting your signature on our Silicon Valley in such a major way.
Thank you.
Welcome. If you'd like to contact the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, details are on our screen. Back in April, Brian Copland joined us on our set, and there was so much to talk about that we wanted to continue the conversation. So you know him well, you listen to him on KGO, you see him acting in his shows, The Waiting Period, Not a Genuine Black Man. He's an author, he's an all-round entertainer and incredible person, and glad to have you stay with us for some more conversation.
So you're trying to tell me I'm long-winded? Is that the point of all this?
Exactly.
There's so much to talk about.
That was a long-winded intro because there's just so much to talk about. But I mean, hey, you fill, 1 or 2 hours every week at least?
Yeah, a couple hours every week. Yeah.
Exactly. So you got to be, you have to think fast on your feet and have a lot to talk about.
I have to. It's called diarrhea of the mouth. That's just what it's called.
Well, I know we talked a little bit before about growing up in this area, but let's talk about what really set you on this path of comedy.
Oh gosh, I always like to say my whole career was a fluke. I mean, because my career path was, high school, I was going to college at Holy Names in pre-law, and then the plan was to go to either Bolt or go to Hastings, and I was going to be a lawyer. I grew up watching Perry Mason and Owen Marshall.
I did too.
And I was going to be a criminal defense lawyer because they were all innocent. I was going to save all these innocent people. And the week I graduated from high school, Tommy T's Comedy Club, the original Tommy T's, opened in San Leandro up the street from my house. And Tommy had been my baseball coach when I was 10. And so I called him up one night, and I used to go to the Punchline and Cobb's and stuff in high school with a fake ID. Said I was Dr. Copland. Worked everywhere until I flashed at the wrong place and do it. Well, I would go watch comedians with this fake ID. And so I said, I want to try it. Can I try it? Do you have a comic? You have an open mic night? He said, no, but I got a comic sick. Can you do 15 minutes? I go, sure. And this is 18 being naive. Yes, absolutely. This 6 o'clock show's at 9. So I opened a paper. I wrote 15 minutes worth of jokes, and I came in, and there were like 12 people there. It's like Tuesday night, and they laughed, and I was hooked. And that's how I ended up in comedy. And so it went from there to into radio and I've always been a writer. I think I told you that's where it really the center of everything is from writing. But that's how I ended up in show business. It was just a fluke.
So
just a totally complete fluke.
Yeah.
Radio, the same thing. I'd written this parody of remember Ray Taliaferro?
Yes.
Ray Taliaferro was on overnights for years on KGO, and I had this really funny bit I did on Ray, and they heard it and said, "You want to come in and do some fill-ins?" I said, "Sure." And now I've been there 25 years this year. Can you believe that? 25, and I'm only 30, which is the weirdest
That's
part.
amazing. Well, you were that 5-year-old reaching for the microphone. It's like, hello, I'm in the studio. It's like, little Brian, you're so cute. Well, congratulations. That's really something, especially with the business changing. It's funny that you mentioned law. I was filling out the LSATs, and my stomach kept flopping, and so chose journalism school instead. And so I know law lost the two of us. But you've done so well with that, and you've seen the business change a lot. You've seen the world change a lot. What do you consider consider the biggest changes in the industry?
Oh, social media.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Social media. And it's so hard, it's the thing, it's so difficult for comics now because of the fact that, you know, you can take 6 months or a year to perfect a 45-minute stand-up set. It's the equivalent of writing a novel. And somebody can come in and sneak in their iPhone and record it and put it up on the web, and you can't do it anymore because everyone's seen it. And you know, it's not like seeing a movie where you can watch the same movie over and over again. Once you've heard the joke, you've heard the joke.
Exactly.
You know, so I think that's probably, you know, it's a double-edged sword. The other part of it is you can get a really big following because of social media. People can find out who you are, you know, that way. But you know, it cuts both ways. That's the biggest change.
Right, it does cut both ways too, because then there's the bullying and there's the nastiness. There's the wonderful things in social media, and then there are the people who are just snarly and you know, snarky and all of those things.
You have haters? Do you have haters on social media? Of course not.
Of course not. Never. No. Right. I probably don't have enough followers as I to do
you've
that.
got plenty of followers.
Oh, but thank you. That's very kind. What about you? A lot of haters?
Oh, well, you do. I mean, everybody. You know what's funny? Okay, you think about who like the kindest, most giving person like in America is, and you probably Oprah Winfrey would be probably one or two. Right. Number one or number two. Oprah's got haters.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
if Oprah's got haters, what? You know, I haven't opened a school for like underprivileged girls in Africa. You know, you know, if Oprah's got haters, what chance do you and I have?
Exactly. And,
You know?
and that shows that people are at least tuned in.
Yeah.
You're doing something that has impact. And that's something that you've said too, that as you've looked at your career now, especially with doing the waiting period, and we talked about it before, that it's a play that deals with a dark period in your life when you were waiting to purchase a gun to commit suicide. But fortunately, you did not. Fortunately, you found help. So when you have a big following, or you have that happen, then you're going to have haters because you're having impact. And now you said you want to have even more impact. So what does that look like for you in terms of how you choose, how you spend your time, or even topics that you choose for your shows?
Well, you know, it's interesting. It's got to be something that just, you know, that just really moves me, and I think that I have something to say. You know, Not a Genuine Black Man, you know, my first play that, you know, we're still in TV series development for this, and hopefully we'll see this made relatively soon.
That's right. You've been working on that for a while.
Forever.
Yeah.
Well, genuinely, no, I had some things to say about, you know, that started with somebody writing me a letter at KGO saying, "You're not really black." And I thought about, okay, who is it that has the right to determine what racial identity is? And I had some things to say about racism, and racism among the African American communities, as well as racism among you know, the white community or the general populace. So, you know, that drove me to write that play. The waiting period was after I came through this bout of depression in 2008. I had some things to say, you know, about depression not being a character flaw, and depression being something that touches all of us, and we need to talk about it in order to save lives. My show, The Scion, which is about, it's very different from my other plays. The Scion, which they call the best new show of 2014.
Yes, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Too.
That was about the triple homicide in San Leandro in 2000 of 3 meat inspectors by the scion of this wealthy, well-established family who'd gotten away with everything his whole life. And this made me think about, okay, let's talk about the role of privilege in society and how there are 2 sets of rules depending on who you are and who your family is. So it's just got to be something that makes me go, wow. And, you know, I have some things to say about this, and then I kind of delve into it. My new play is about, I'm working on a play right now called Grandma and Me. And my grandmother mostly raised me after my mom died. And Grandma at 58 took on 5 kids by herself, ages 14 to 11 months old by herself.
Oh my gosh.
And then, you know, 30 years later, I'm going through divorce, and I end up with custody of my 3. And so what it's about is I have some things to say about single parenting. Why is it that everybody patted me on the back as a single father? Oh, wow, that's great. Oh, wow, you're a hero. Whereas single mothers are vilified. I don't understand that.
Right.
You know, single mothers are they're the ones who stayed. Why is it that they're, you know? So I have some things to say about that issue. So I've got some passion behind it, and
That's exciting that you're writing about that too. It needs to be delved into. And I'm sure we could have you back for even another segment to talk about just the racial tensions now that have happened, and the unbelievable things that you see in terms of police actions and other things. There's just so much.
Yeah.
But in terms of your standing, what you've been able to achieve as a man and then as a black man, what are you proudest of?
my kids. I'm proudest of my kids. I mean, you know, I raised 3 kids that just turned out to be great, wonderful, you know, human beings who contribute great things to society. And, you know, that more than anything else, you know, that's, when we talk legacy, that's my legacy.
Yes, well, you have an incredible legacy. Thank you for joining us again.
Well, thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. If you'd like to contact Brian Copland.
Can I come back in September? I was just
Yeah,
here in
exactly.
April.
I know, exactly.
Okay,
we'll make
just
this,
saying.
you know, every other month, right? You know, exactly. My new co-host, Brian Copland. If you'd like to contact Brian Copland, details are on our screen. Rosemary Baez is the Executive Director of the 3rd Street Community Center, and it focuses on STEM and much, much more. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about the history of the center.
The history of the center. Well, we started in 1998. That's when we were founded, and we were founded by community leaders here in downtown San Jose. Our focus has always really been on kids and families and just education in general.
Yes. And so what inspired you and what inspires you as you continue to do this work?
Well, I think for me is, you know, I was born and raised in downtown San Jose, and so coming to 3rd Street is really coming full circle for me. The kids and the families that I see going through our doors could very easily have been myself, my sisters, and my mom, you know, so many years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is wonderful that you have those services there. And education has changed so much in terms of there are a lot of programs that support, but also the classrooms are just under siege in many ways. Teachers don't have the time. There are a lot of resources that are not there. So how do you help with that process?
One of the things that we really focus on is STEM education, so science, technology, engineering, and math. The population of kids that we serve tend to be English language learners, which means they are learning a language or they're speaking a language other than English
is
at
their
home.
second language.
Yeah. And unfortunately, as a result of that, they're not really exposed to science at school until maybe their 4th or 5th grade. And one of the things that we do is we introduce kids as young as the 1st grade to science, and not just science, but like engineering.
And how do you introduce them?
What we use a strategy called project-based learning, and in a nutshell what that means is you learn by doing. So they're very hands-on projects where kids actually get to apply math. Instead of doing math on, piece of paper,
Right.
They actually build things, they create things with their hands, so they can actually see the real-world application. And we're also very fortunate. We're not too far from San Jose State and Santa Clara University, and we get a lot of students that come and volunteer.
And that's so important because then they can see the gap. I mean, now
Yeah.
STEM has become cool, but still sometimes there's a reticence in those areas. And so this really overcomes that with them saying, oh, well, if I do this now, then I can go to college and then I can become whatever I want to be, but I'll have this information and
Yes.
this background and this knowledge. So we're in June now, and during the summer, did the programs change at all, or what happens?
In the summertime, yeah, we have summer camps during the summer. So the after-school academic program runs pretty much mirroring the school cycle. So middle of August to the end of May. In June through July, we have summer camps. We have 2 different camps that we offer for 4th through 7th grade and then 8th grade to 11th grade. The camps are a little bit different. In the camps, we really focus on literacy for the younger kids, and we also throw in some arts there. For the older kids, we do a lot of workshops on college and career and life skills workshops. So a lot of our high school students are also starting to ask questions about like relationships. What's a healthy relationship? What are some things that they need to do to prepare for college and life in general? And so we do that. We take them on college tours. We do some fun stuff too. I mean, we go ice skating. We do other local things that are, kids would love.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Those are those hard questions, a healthy relationship. But it's good to learn early because it'll last you well in your life if you learn to set those boundaries and do those things well at that time. So with English being the second language for many, are the courses taught in English or are they taught in different languages? How does that work?
No, the courses are taught in English for the most part. During the after-school academic program, we do get some 1st and 2nd graders who actually have homework in Spanish. They haven't transitioned to English yet. And so those students, obviously need help with their homework in Spanish. They're still learning math. They're still learning some of those things, but it's just in Spanish. So we need to find volunteers who are fluent in Spanish to be able to help our kids, and we do. Yeah.
Do you have a lot of volunteers, or do you need volunteers at this point?
In one year we get over 300 volunteers coming through our doors.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
and for
impressive.
for our after-school program, I'm really happy to say that many times we have a 1-to-1 ratio with our kids. So those kids that really need that extra support, it may not just be academics. It's a lot of, it has a lot to do with self-confidence. Some of the kids feel that maybe they're not capable, or they're embarrassed to read out loud because they can't read aloud very well. Yes. And so just having that one person next to them saying, okay, let's go through it. Let's, do it again. No, you're doing great. Just encouraging them makes the world of difference for those kids. So we're really fortunate that we're able to provide that level of assistance.
That is truly wonderful, and I know you find it personally rewarding. Can you
Yes.
think of what is your favorite part of what you do?
As the executive director, a lot of my work is, chained to a desk, doing reports and putting in for grants and doing that sort of thing. But I think one of the most rewarding things is actually being involved with the program. So with our Young Engineers program, I'm actually there every Saturday working with the kids, and I get to keep in touch with why I'm spending all those hours doing those reports.
Grants, right?
Doing those runs,
yes.
jumping through those hoops and all that. And so I can actually see the tangible benefit that we're having on the kids. I can see them, go from 5th graders who are a little unsure to high school students who are saying, yeah, I want to go to Stanford. I want to become a mechanical engineer. No, I want to become a computer engineer. I mean, they already know what they want to do. And I think it's really because of the programs that we offer.
Right, and you help them take those steps.
Yeah.
So someone watching who wants to become involved might have a question about the resources and all that. Is there a screening process, or do you take everyone who applies? How does it work?
We can't take everyone that applies because we just have limited slots and limited staffing. Right. Unfortunately, if we had more funding, I think we'd be able to take more kids. There is an application process. There's an orientation that parents have to attend. One of the biggest things that we look for are kids that really whose parents don't have the resources to enroll them in a summer science camp, that can't pay for a tutor to come help their kid. So low-income kids, kids that are English language learners that are really struggling with English, and parents who are committed to their, giving their kids the opportunities that maybe they didn't have as children. Yes. So it is a program where they do have to be there every day of the program. They can't just pick them up and drop them off whenever. Okay. It is an academic program, and so if the kids and the parents are not ready to make that commitment, then it's probably not the best program for them, because kids sometimes want to play. Right.
It's hands-on, it's intensive, but it's with a desired end in mind. And thank you so much for what you're doing what you bring to all of our community through the 3rd Street Community Center.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you'd like to contact the 3rd Street Community Center, details are on our screen. And that's our show. I'm Janice Edwards. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for what you do to put your signature on our valley. Please join us again next time. We look forward to seeing you then.
This show is sponsored by Silicon Valley Community Foundation. Silicon Valley Community Foundation advances innovative philanthropic solutions to challenging problems. As the largest community foundation in the world, we engage donors and corporations from Silicon Valley, across the country, and around the globe to make our region and world better for all. Possibilities start here. Learn more at siliconvalleycf.org.